Mr. Russick usually does that.
Mr. Russell coaches over here, the wrestling. So the wrestling team is here to do the pledge. It's Coach Tim Kai Clark is here, and Coach Andrew
Gomez,
Manager
Tim Kai.
Tim Kai.
Got you.
And this is the Midway High School wrestling team, and they are the newest 6A wrestling team. And then you just invite them up, and they'll do the pledge.
Excellent. Thank
Hey,
you.
Emily's garden up here somewhere.
Sorry?
Never mind, we're good. It just turned on.
I looked when I was looking and Susan wasn't there, and Brad wasn't there, but they're not going to be there.
Hey, so it,
Okay. We ready to go, sir?
Yes, sir.
I'm ready.
You guys ready?
Yep.
Thank y'all. We call the regular meeting for the month of August already, on the brink of starting school. Regular board meeting. We have a quorum, but Mr. Alford and Ms. Vick will not be with us this evening. They've got out-of-town obligations. We appreciate everybody that is here. And on behalf of the board, welcome to you and anybody that's joining us online. Y'all know the thing to do with your phones if you hadn't already done that. As a brief reminder, the board's role is setting goals, listening to reports from superintendent and staff, approve budgets, setting tax rates, which we'll be doing tonight, approve personnel recommendations, make policy decisions. The board does not make management decisions. Management of the school district is the business of the superintendent and his staff. So one of the other things we do, and it's great that we're tonight having the person that sort of initiated us doing it, Pam Watts, is going to visit with us about the mission statement.
Thank you, Mr. Russick. Our mission statement reads as follows. Midway ISD focuses on providing a learner-centered environment to engage and challenge students. Staff and students alike can utilize advanced technology and innovative programs throughout all campuses. These words are not just something we recite, they express the heart of what we strive for every single day. And it is our people who make this mission possible. For months now, we've seen Texas public education take hit after brutal hit, leaving it underfunded, under fire, and far too often undervalued. As our state leaders keep insisting we make bricks without straw, it becomes harder each day to provide well for our people and our programs. However, that said, earlier this year, our Facility Study Committee leaders stepped forward as a reminder of Midway's most priceless resource and one that can never be taken away, our people. And I want to say thank you again to the committee, our leader Jordan Berry, and the other members that served tirelessly for a year going end to end, top to bottom of this district. And I want to thank you again. But they remind us, not that. Holy cow, that wasn't me. Our people rise up and overcome even the most impossible challenges. Our people show up, dig deep, and give generously for the good of everyone in Panther Nation. Our people embody the innovation, commitment, and excellence that define our district. Our mission statement is more than a thoughtful saying. It's the ideal we strive for, the standard we live by, and the cause to which our people of Panther Nation are clearly, deeply, and continually committed. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Moment of silence. I would ask each of you to briefly pause with me and choose, engage in prayer, reflection, mediation, contemplation. Thank you. It is quite an honor we got tonight, folks, for the pledge. School hadn't even started. And I see, how many folks are on the team? No. 35. How many are here? Okay. This is the newest UIL 6A wrestling program in the state of Texas. coached by Tim Kai Clark. Tim Kai, you want to come on up? And Coach Andrew Gomez. Coach Gomez. Even though school hadn't started yet, these wrestlers, these athletes are here to lead us in the pledge. Folks, y'all want to come on? Y'all want to do it from there?
No, bring him up front.
That's what I said. Come on up front.
Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, come on.
It's a good-looking group.
Somebody's got to start. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Folks, y'all need to get in a better alignment. You're going to get used to this because you're getting some pictures taken a lot. Emily, yeah, there you go.
Let's get you folks step forward. Right here. You come to the front. There we go.
That's one heck of a turnout for the first year of the program, you know?
Yeah, that's awesome. Love it.
Y'all are like staying literally so okay, there we all split right here. Okay. Yeah. You back there, right here. There you go. There it is. Okay. Y'all ready? Everybody right here? Now get in close. Alright, ready? 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Congratulations.
Okay, folks, and after the pledge, we always have recognition, and tonight, even though we're not in school yet, we still have a couple of recognition items that are not student-oriented, but more school-oriented. Dr. Odejima.
Thank you, Mr. President. We are proud to celebrate Midway ISD and 3 of our campuses for being named to the 2024 Texas Honor Roll by the Educational Results Partnership. This recognition places us among the top performing schools and districts in Texas, based on objective student achievement data from the past several years. Let's recognize our campuses first. Spring Valley Elementary Principal Kathy Edwards.
the name change.
Come on, let's go.
For the best public middle school, River Valley Middle School.
Yeah.
Dr. Heather Metzger and the RBMS staff. For best public high school, Midway High School earned the title once again. Congratulations, Principal Allison Smith and the MHS team. A special shout out to Coach Jay Slaughter, who was voted best teacher in Central Texas. Mr. Slaughter.
Wow, let's go.
Mr. Slaughter teaches at River Valley Middle School and is a standout leader for our students.
Awesome.
And finally, Midway ISD was recognized as a favorite for best place to work. A testament to the amazing culture built across our schools and departments, Dr. Ashley Knudsen. Congratulations to all of this year's honorees. These awards reflect our community's appreciation and support. We're so proud to see Midway ISD shine.
Thank you, Dr. Odejima. I think those recognitions and awards, that helps explain why we have all the students that we have here that get all the recognitions they get. It's because of those folks and those campuses. So we appreciate that. We have...
Mr. Russick, if I might, I apologize, may I?
Sure.
So we had Meet the Teacher tonight in the midst of other things we're doing, and I'm looking at elementary campus principals and assistant principals and others. We, if y'all want to, this is a public meeting, you're welcome to stay if you'd like.
Absolutely.
But if you would like to be done with your evening, there'll be no offense taken from the dais. Okay.
Go meet the teachers.
I'm sorry he had to say that. I thought y'all knew that coming here already. But thank you, Dr. Allen,
Yes.
thank you.
No, I didn't know it was
Information items, we've got a few that board might have questions or discussion on, or you might not. If you do, then we'll take those up now, and if not, we'll move on to our monthly finance report under the presentation discussion. All right, hearing none on the information items, Wesley Brooks, you're going to tell us the good news and the not so good news, right?
Yes, sir.
always
Good evening, members of the board. On page 645 of your board packet is this month's financial report, the general fund statement of revenues and expenditures. So this is for the month of July, the first month of our fiscal year 26 year. You can see there on the left, the side group of columns there is the month ended for July 31st, 2025, compared to the right side there, July 31st of 24. You can see our adopted budget there on the left side. There is $3.5 million deficit that was adopted in June for the fiscal year 26. We did have budget amendments last month already for some projects that were budgeted last year but didn't get completed, so they carry forward into this year. I think the roofing project, the middle school was one of the larger ones, and the access control doors as well. So actually that 3.5 starts out at 4.2 for the new year. I do also have some property tax information. We received our certified values at the end of July. And so the fifth page of your financial report, you can see there are net taxable property values. Just a history of the last several years from 2016 through the current year. Our property values actually did drop from 2024 to this year about 4.6%. And the main reason for that, well, really the main reason for that is the increase in the homestead exemption. So these numbers do assume that constitutional amendment will pass in November, as it most assuredly will. In addition to that, there were a lot of property protests that went to the appraisal review board, and there were more reductions in those than normal, and so we did see a reduction there. You can see there the red line denotes the commercial and industry properties in the district, and the blue line, the residential. You can see how they kind of starting to diverge here the last couple of years. The homestead increase in homestead exemption is part of that. Also, like I said, the protests and our industrial values do continue to grow. They actually grew, I believe, 3 or 4%, and residential dropped 15% from last year. You can see this historically there on the bar graph there on the right. In 21, 22, 23, we had double-digit increases in property values. Last year was more what we normally see, 5%, and then this year the decrease of 4.6%. Our commercial properties make up almost 60% of our taxable values, compared to our residentials at 40%. The next page shows a list of our top 10 taxpayers currently. A lot of the familiar names there. We did add one coming in at number 2 there is the graphic packaging, the paper recycling plant. Amazon's our largest taxpayer, $378 million in value. The graphic packaging is at $266 million. That will continue. It's in construction and progress. That'll continue to increase over the course of the next year. Any questions on our property values? Okay.
Can I ask a question on the budget in general,
Yes.
since it's here? I was looking back through, I can't remember, do we budget based on a certain WADA and a certain average daily attendance? Because I know there's some of the new things that the legislature created that are not based on WADA, but they're based on attendance in some other way. Do we have targets for those that we look at trying to hit? Do you know what they are right now?
We do. So like for a specific allotment or just?
Well, just in general, like is there a WADA number that we try to hit? I'm starting to try to think more, I guess, as a marketing person, trying to think of, okay, because one of the only ways that we can actually increase operating revenue around here is to increase our WADA. Mm-hmm. And so what does it do to help, how does it help us to bring in 50 more students, 100 more students, something like that? And so what do we budget based on for WADA?
Our WADA is about 11,000.
Yeah.
And this was a little different because last year's number were pretty flat from the year before, and so we just budgeted just basically identical WADA ADA numbers from the prior year.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions for Wesley on the finance report? All right, thank you, Wesley. We appreciate that. Senate Bill 13, also known as library materials. Dr. Odejima, a short fuse on this one. And by that, I mean the legislature passed this, the governor signed it into law, and the time for school districts to get into compliance with it is
Immediately.
short.
Yes.
Immediate, yes.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Mr. Russick. And members of the board, tonight we'll talk about Senate Bill 13, review that bill a bit, talk about Midway's response to that, and then give you our recommendation for an immediate adoption of policy, because we're required to do that before the start of school because it goes into effect September 1st. So quite a quick turnaround on that piece. To begin, Senate Bill 13 relates to a school district's library materials and catalog and the establishment of a local school advisory council, should the district choose to do that. It relates to parent rights regarding access to the library catalog and access to a parent's child's library materials and whether or not they're able to check those out. It was passed on June 30th and goes into effect on September 1st. The bill has essentially 5 components that we'll talk about tonight. We'll specify what each of these components are and then also talk about our response. So to begin, it addresses an enhanced parent access and rights. That means parents now have the right to view all student records, and identified in this bill is that parents have access for library checkout records. They also should have access to the school library catalog. Our parents already had access to that, but this law identifies that specifically. They are also able to submit a list of materials that their child may not check out or access outside of the school library or outside of a classroom, actually. Districts that have an online portal or a management system, an online management system for those books, also must show parents a record of each of the students' library checkout records. The second component is a state-mandated library collection standard. This is not something that we do, but it's something that the Texas State Library and Archives Commission does, and they'll have that ready for us by April 1st of this school year. That new library archive standard will identify some language specifically about harmful, sexually explicit, indecent, profane, the terminology that's been debated from time to time. They'll clearly identify that and the definition of those things. They're also going to outline what library materials it applies to, so basically includes all things that may not have been included in previous standards, so library and classroom materials, which would be library type materials that are in classrooms, digital catalogs, mobile apps, things of that nature that may not have been mentioned in previous standards. It will recognize parents as the primary decision makers. We've seen that trend in other legislation as well. And then it ensures transparency and protects against removing material solely on the basis of ideas or the author's background. The third component is new procedures for library material acquisition. Previously, a librarian might create a list based on standards for selecting library materials that our district had and was approved and followed other standards widely used for collection standards, and the librarian would purchase those materials. Now, the Board of Trustees will approve all new or donated materials, with exception of things that we already own in our collection that are just replacement items. We would propose those materials and make them publicly viewable for 30 days to the public, the community. We would post that on our website to make those available. We would make those available to the board in an information item, the board meeting prior to a vote, a consent meeting. And then TEA's developing a model policy for us to follow. We haven't seen that yet, but that's in the works. So we would adopt those policies and procedures. But there's a timeline, and then it goes through the Board of Trustees before we're able to purchase or use donated materials in our libraries moving forward. It also formalizes a challenge and appeal process. We currently have a challenge process. This goes a step further and asks TEA to develop a form. So there's a universal form in the state for everyone to challenge a book. So when TEA creates that form, all districts would adopt that form. Challenge materials would be restricted from student access during the review process. The challenge committee would have a designated protocol to follow while the review is going on. There's a designated timeline that's named in statute. The committee decision can be appealed to the school board, a typical grievance type process that's identified in statute as well. As far as the outcomes go, what's identified in the legislation is that if the book is removed by the board, then teachers would remove all copies from classrooms as well as from the library collection. And if the book is retained, future challenges are barred until the second anniversary of the board's final vote. The fifth provision is the optional provision in the legislation, and it says that districts may establish a local advisory council. This School Library Advisory Council, the SLAC committee, is formulated very similarly to the SHAC committee, the Student Health Advisory Council. So we're allowed to create that if we choose. We must create that if it's a requested by 50 parents or 10% of our enrolled families, whichever it's fewer. For us, that would be 50. The council's duties would require reviewing acquisitions and removal decisions, the part of this challenge committee process. It would be a committee that would be majority parents. It would be appointed by board members. It's a board advisory committee. They would meet at least twice a year and post agendas and recordings and follow open meeting act things that the SHAC committee would traditionally do. So this is Midway's response to these protocol thus far. We feel like we were positioned to do some really pretty quick responses thanks to Sarah Collins and our librarians who have been at this work really already. You may remember that House Bill 900 came out a year or so ago, and there were some things that we already had to put in place to look at classroom collections, and there was some language that changed, that we updated some policy and things because of that when we looked at library books previously. So we've been at work on some of these actions already. So as far as that first component, the enhanced parent access, there were 3 things we needed to look at: library collections, classroom libraries, and then also digital libraries. And then we also needed an opportunity to put information out for parents so that they knew where to go to and how to access this information. So to address this, for library collections, we do have a digital platform already in place. Destiny Follett is how we access digital materials through our libraries. That's our catalog, our check-in, check-out system. So this is already in place. In fact, right now on our website, prior to any of this happening, any person could go to the Midway Library Services page and type in the Destiny Follett platform, a book search. So you could search any title and it would pull up any book that's listed in our catalogs. So any campus, any place, you don't have to have a Midway login. However, we're able to flip a switch, and a parent guardian can log in with their parent guardian email that's registered through eSchool, and they can see the books that their student has access to. So we were able to turn that on fairly quickly, and we have a procedure for parents to follow to do that. Sarah Collins has created that step-by-step sheet already, and we have that posted. So now they're able to see their individual child's library checkout records. They can access their child's school library catalog, and they can also restrict student access. Here's a little bit of what that looks like. So after a parent logs into the Follett collection, if they go to the far left here, they could type in a title. In this case, fishing is the subject that's searched. It pulls up all the books on fishing. To the right-hand side of this, you see that there's the ellipse, the 3 dots. And if you click on that, a little menu pops up and it says, do not check out this book, and then to this particular student. So your child's name pops up there. You click on that, and then it puts the little Ghostbuster sign on there to block that book for your child to check out. You also can look, every title that Midway owns or that has access to in this collection would follow. But if you look at that note that's in the middle of the page, if it's grayed out, it says not available in this site or elsewhere. I can't read that from here. But that means that it's not at your child's school. So there might be books in this list that are only available at the high school or not available on your child's campus. So they wouldn't have access to that book anyway. So if there's a little gray note, you don't have access to it. So they can block a child's book from this menu that they already have access to. So in this instance, when we search the title French Revolution, you can see that several of these titles have already been blocked by the parent. And there's a little menu that pops up that says, do not check out to this child. So when the librarian goes to scan the book and check out the book, they know, don't check this book out to this particular student. On the left-hand side, you see a menu in blue. The top magnifying glass is the search bar. If I go to the next icon, the book, that is the current books that are checked out. The next clock down is the history of books, so they can see every book that the child has ever checked out from the library this school year. And then the last button, little Ghostbuster sign, is any books that the parent has blocked that the child doesn't have access to. The best thing is we already own the system. We didn't have to pay anything to turn this on. So that's a win because our next option was going to cost us $16,000. So this is huge, and even though it's a couple of steps, it's a win. So excited about that. Thank you, librarians and Sarah Collins, for figuring this out quickly. So our second bucket that we wanted to pay attention to was classroom libraries. So I mentioned House Bill 900 earlier. Sarah and the librarians have been working the entire spring semester to figure out a solution, and teachers have been working actually throughout the summer to catalog books that are in their personal classroom libraries that students might have access to, and then teachers have been getting professional development sort of swap time, comp time, for cataloging their own books in their classrooms. We're using a platform that we actually already had access to because it's part of a database that we already subscribe to called TextQuest. So Teaching Books allows a teacher to go in and scan a book in their classroom or enter an ISBN number for a book in their classroom, and it adds that book to a teacher's Teaching Books webpage. And so that page has a link. And on that link, every book that's in the teacher's classroom library collection, those books are listed there. When the parent goes to that link that the teacher provides, they can click on the book, they can read more about the book, and if they choose to not let their child access that book that's in their teacher's classroom, they're going to send an email to the teacher. So we're going to keep this loop very tight so that it's an email, it's a communication between the parent and the teacher. So there's not extra people in the middle to go between, and the parent and the teacher have direct communication over which books that they might not want their child have access to. So that takes care of library collections, that takes care of classroom libraries. The last thing we needed to look at were digital libraries, so online resources. So currently, we have removed access for our digital collections outside of Destiny Follett, that's our library catalog, because we do have access to some online resources through that collection because currently we do not have an online resource, Epic Books, Tumble Books, things like this, that allow parents to manage their child's access. So when we find an online platform that will allow a parent to log in and manage their child's access to a book, we are happy to begin using those again. But right now, parent access and parent management is not allowed. So according to Senate Bill 13, we can't use that. So we've turned those off. So we've limited what we can't control and what parents won't have access to. All of that information and the other information that's available or needs to be available is being stored in the Library Information Hub, which is basically our library services website on the main, accessible from the main web page drop-down menu. So in Programs and Services on the main Midway website, there's a Library Services tab that you can click on, and these things are on that main page. So parents can quickly and easily get there. Sarah's already created some step-by-step pages on how to access all of these pieces and what to do when you get the information and how to either choose books for your child or check the checkout history or block things if you need to do that. So that was component one. Component two, the state mandated library collection standards. This really has very little that we need to do except to follow it when it's published. Currently, we'll continue to use the guidelines that are identified in EFB Local. It's very similar to things that we already follow in the previous EFB policy, but when we adopt EFB Local, we'll follow those comprehensive guidelines. And then when it's updated by the Texas State Library Archives Commission, we'll follow those guidelines as well. We should see new ones in April. As far as the third component, the new library procedures, we've begun looking at and proposing timelines for what that process would look like in the fall and look like for you, the board, who would begin approving those book procurements. So it looks something like this in September and October. Actually, they probably have it ready right now because the librarians are ready. The library staff would thoroughly review and evaluate the desired books for purchase on campuses. They would finalize any requests and look at the acquisition list. They would submit that to the board for review. We would also want to publish that publicly on our website and through our campus pieces so that all parents and anybody who was interested would be able to look at that list while the board was looking at it. So we'd probably put it as an information item for the board. So that has to be out 30 days prior to a vote by the board. And then in this timeline by the November board meeting. You would have seen it for 30 days. The public would have seen the list for 30 days. We would have taken feedback and questions at any time. The board could get information from community input. You could look at rejecting any book that you thought didn't need to be on the list. And then in that November board meeting, we would look at approving or rejecting the final list and moving any books off of that list that we didn't believe needed to be purchased. And then after that meeting, we would be able to move forward with purchase.
Can you repeat that last part under the November 19th? What comprises proposed changes? What changes might we propose?
To remove a book from the list,
Just remove it, not to add anything?
I suppose you could add if you liked.
I wanted to
If you,
understand
I think,
what our-
if you added a book to the list, it would probably have to go back to the 30-day approval policy with the, send it back to the community and start the 30-day process again.
So if you
And
want
we
to
would
add a
send it
book,
through all the check engines again.
add it in September if you want to add a book.
But that's a mailing design for things that we might want to take off that are already on there.
Essentially.
Not that I'm proposing to do that, I just want to understand what my role is here.
Right, right. Good question. All right, so that's what a sample timeline might look like. The fourth component, the challenge process, we currently have a process. We would look at adopting the process that is currently written in the EFB policy that we would be recommending tonight. And then once TEA completes their challenge form, we would add that to our website and use that form as it was needed. And then the fifth provision, this is the optional component, is the local school advisory council for the libraries. This is one that we're proactively reviewing, the feasibility of establishing a SLAC in advance of a formal community petition that requires us to do that. So we're looking at the advantages of doing that and the requirements of doing that. But we're also awaiting further guidance from state to ensure that we would fully align with the requirements of that committee. To date, we're still missing some pieces of policy, both legal and local, because as you know, there are many, many things that have changed since the 89th legislature finished their main session, and we don't have all policies updated yet. So we are moving ahead with as much information as we have to date. So, for that reason, tonight, the administration is recommending that we move forward with the EFB local policy that is the alt version, which means we would not adopt a SLAC committee at this time. The reason we would move forward without the SLAC committee is that the two policies side by side only differ in this SLAC committee. The other four components are identical. The SLAC committee is an option, but it's not a requirement at this time. We can begin it at any time. But because we're missing a little bit of legislation and because it's brand new and we're in a bit of a squeezed timeline, there's still some debate about a couple of things. One is the language of the TASB policy. There are a couple of lines where there is question as to whether or not the TASB policy agrees completely with the law as it reads. So we're looking to see if those things end up being changed and if they agree with one another as to who has the last recommendation to the board before it moves on. There's also a question as to whether or not there are other policies that will be updated before there's actually a SLAC. For example, BDB, it's actually legal, and BDF, legal, identify other advisory committees. BDF actually names the SHAC committee. So we believe that a SLAC committee will probably also be named in future versions of the BDF policy. We won't see the TASB policy until September, maybe October. as far as when we've gotten a notice of when the update might happen that you would see and then adopt. So we're in early days as far as seeing what the interpretation of this law might look like and what their recommendations are for us adopting policy moving forward. So we're not completely certain of what that's going to look like yet. Also, once we commit to a SLAC committee, we are committed to that for 3 years, whatever we put in policy. On the upside, the access now available to parents through the other 4 components that we'll be adding allows for a great deal of transparency, control, and management over the individual book selection for their student. So we believe parents are going to have a great deal of management for their child. We also have removed digital resources that parents can't manage, so that shouldn't be an issue. We also are adding many steps in the material procurement process. In addition to it being approved by the board, it is also going to go to the community for a 30-day feedback process. So anyone that has an interest in looking at those lists will have that opportunity with or without an additional committee. So we have opportunity for public feedback in addition to parental management of their individual child's book. So with policies and documents still being developed and a 3-year commitment being what we would be committing to at this point in time, we think that our best step moving forward is to implement those 4 components at this time, see if it meets the needs of students, parents, and community, and then wait and see what the policies develop into before we commit to anything else, see if this fits our needs, and then see what else we do need after we've looked at this process and assess how it's going. What questions do you have?
From the board. We have this on the consent agenda for the board to potentially approve this policy as proposed by the administration. So you can ask them now, or you can pull that from the consent agenda and ask them then.
I have 2 questions.
Sure.
Man, this seems like a lot of work that we're going through in a short amount of time, and I'm greatly appreciative that we were able to do that. I'm interested to know, will we be able to track or to know, say, after a year, the extent to which any parents have even made use of any of these tools? Like, are we going to be able to know, does the juice worth
Right,
the
as far
squeeze
as-
here?
as
I
far
mean,
as
I
the
know-
tracking?
I know we have to do it, but are we going to know, hey, is this really meaningful?
Sarah, do you know, is there a tracking mechanism on the backside of these?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate the fact that we already had the tools, and it was somewhat, I mean, it was a lot of work, I'm sure, for Sarah, because I can visualize how we have to connect these authentication systems together and all of that, but I think it's worthwhile to understand, hey, this seems like a busy work assignment from the legislature to us to some degree, maybe.
Yep.
But then again, we're not a district that I think has had library issues either in general, so. The other question about the online resources that we've had to sort of all pull down, the online book resources, because I
Right.
know that, I know my kid at least has talked about reading and using some of those. Is that blocked, like actively firewall kind of blocked, where even that iPad device at home wouldn't be able to access those resources, or is it just, like how
That's right,
actively
it
is
would be
that
blocked through our iPad.
So it's actually blocked, it's not just that we stopped subscribing to it.
A
it's
parent could
actually-
still access Epic Books through their own home account on their home device.
Okay, but on our iPad device anywhere, it's
Right.
blocked, okay.
Right,
Okay,
because we don't have
I-
control.
I get it, yes.
We'll keep asking for it. We've reached out,
Also a lot of work.
yeah.
Do you have a plan to communicate this new opportunity to the parents? And,
Yeah.
what's that? look like?
Our teachers will communicate directly with classrooms, K-2 through newsletters to get information out. We can send out a district post, but it would come, it's a smaller circle if teachers communicate with their classrooms. And then our 3rd through 12th grade teachers are posting it on their classroom information folder in Schoology. So when they have their how to contact me and their classroom information, any of their classroom links would be there. And then we'll post how to access all of those library services to parents.
And there's nothing preventing parents from doing this at any point during the year, as many times as they want. If a parent wants to raise questions about a book in October and then another one in December and
Right.
2 more in January, I mean, this is an ongoing process, right?
That's right.
In terms of going forward, the way that the new acquisitions process would work, do we envision that's a once-a-year thing? Is it a fall and spring thing? Is it I don't know how often a teacher says, man, this would be a great resource to have, and then.
Yeah. So the librarians traditionally would purchase like large orders of books, like upwards of like 1,000 in an order, thousands in an order. And some are teeny tiny elementary books, but thousands in an order 3 to 4 times a year. And we know that that's not going to be possible with this level of procedure. So they know that that is changing. So we'll do as many times as possible that's reasonable for you all to have that process in place.
But when you say
But-
3 or 4 times a year, is that multiple copies of the same list of titles? Or different
That's
books altogether?
different titles. We've talked about different ways to add these books so that it makes the most sense and it's the easiest way to sort through for people who don't do this for a profession on a daily basis. Like if it's another book in a series and it's a series that the district already owns, is there a way to help you identify that? That's an okay thing. We don't need to scrutinize. Or if it's something similar to another title. If it's an additional copy of something another campus already has, that's kind of a no-brainer. We should be able to do that. So we've talked about ways that we could make this simpler in the process for adding titles to libraries, but new books come out all the time, and they like to keep the titles fresh for students, so they'll continue to be interested in checking out new books. So,
Good point.
Do people still read magazines? And do those play into this
in
somehow?
schools, I don't know. I don't know how much we purchase magazines in our elementary and high school libraries. Does anybody know? Campus principals? Don't know? We'll find out. I don't know.
If we're not doing it, that's fine. I was just wondering how those would.
That's clearly a frequent.
Yeah.
Frequent thing.
I don't know, because if we were vetting magazines by the time we got through this process, they would not be relevant.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
You can have the January issue in May. Yeah, that's not going to be fun to
Can
read.
we start reviewing Mr. Witt's Facebook page too?
Oh, please, you should definitely.
All right,
Other
thank you.
questions on Senate Bill 13, folks?
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Becky.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Next agenda item, House Bill 121, another gift from the 89th regular legislature. Dr. Allen.
Good evening. We're going to talk a little bit about armed personnel on campuses and good cause exception for SROs. And so let me talk to you a little bit about the background. So there are a number of Texas education codes that speak to this. If you'll go ahead and advance that for me. Thank you. It requires the board to ensure that at least one armed security officer is present during the regular school hours at each school campus. It requires that the armed security officer be a commissioned peace officer. Okay, that's the bullet point we're going to spend most of our time talking about. Provides the option of claiming a good cause exception if the district's noncompliance is due to the availability of funding or qualified personnel. That you've seen, and we did that back in 2023. And that all ties back to the 88th regular. What they did in the 89th regular was House Bill 121 that requires the board to examine this good cause exception annually. So every year we'll come back and talk about whether or not we still have a good cause exception for not having commissioned peace officers on all of our campuses. So as a reminder, what we currently do is we have SROs, well, hang on, let me get ahead of it. So next slide. Currently, What we have is MISD police officers of 5, 2 at MHS, 1 at each middle school, and then Chief Foley. And then we have campus safety and security specialists. We have 9 of those, 1 at each elementary and 1 at Midway High School. Our safety specialists do not meet the specific qualifications of commissioned peace officers. However, it's worth noting that 5 are retired law enforcement, 1 is a corporate safety officer, 1 is a former adult probation officer, 1 is a former private security officer, and 1's former military. In addition to that, they do all the training with, not all, but they do almost all the training with our officers. So when our officers train, they train. That would put us in a position where we have to look at whether or not we have a good cause exception. We believe we do as a district based on finances. So we received additional safety dollars from House Bill 2 in the amount of $286,664. There was an unfunded mandate associated with HB 33, which required us to put a breaching tool and ballistic shield on every campus. That is costing us $50,000, which means new additional funds provided by the ledge for 25-26 is $236,664. For us to take our current campus safety and security specialists and turn them into SROs that we would have at least 1 on every campus would cost us about $1.2 million. And that is detailed for you on the left-hand side of the breakdown. The total new revenue from the state was $236,664, which leaves us with a loss of $969,666. Therefore, it's the administration's recommendation that we continue to claim this good cause exception allowed by HB3 due to the availability of funding. The board will have an opportunity to act on this in the consent agenda as we have a resolution included, and that is item 8A3. But the numbers are pretty plain on this. It is mostly associated with the cost of equipping and preparing those officers should they make that transition. And right now, that cost is just not feasible for the district. And so we'll be recommending that we continue to claim that good cause exception. I can take any questions that board members may have at this time.
So the good cause exception simply means we'd be able to continue doing what we've been doing.
Yes, sir. What we'd be doing is claiming an exception to the requirement that we have commissioned peace
Right,
officers on every campus. We would keep the model we currently have.
Okay, is there anything else? That term sounds like a loaded legal term. No offense to my lawyer friends. Is there anything else there that could come back to haunt us?
The way the statute's written, the board's allowed to claim this exception. And
Yeah.
so we are no more or less in a bind on that now than we were from 2023 when we first did this until now.
Okay. So we're
This
still
new law
compliant.
just requires us to revisit annually.
Okay.
What I would say there, Rick, is it's significant to me that the legislature put it in place in '23, and after 2 years of experience of what school districts did or didn't do under it with regard to claiming good cause exception based on money or lack of people, or both, they didn't come in and change the ability to claim a good cause exception. They just said, districts, y'all gotta look at it annually and see whether that's where you still think you are. So I think that's telling. Other questions for the superintendent on that one, folks? All right, if not, we had a special call meeting. The next 2 items are basically continuations, as it were, the agenda items that we had in the special call special meeting. I don't know that we need to take up real property in here or go into closed session on that from here, but we do still need to talk about, as a discussion item, and then we've got, excuse me, a possible action item on calling a bond election for the November uniform election date. Based on what we were talking about at the end of that meeting, and maybe to move this meeting along, let me ask the board, since we only have 5 folks here, we know that we have a hard deadline if we're going to call one for that November uniform date of Monday, the 18th at 5 p.m. I know that Mr. Alford and Ms. Vick will be back in town what's the board's appetite for having a special called meeting on Monday so we've got the entire board to consider this item?
I'm good with it.
I'm sorry.
Speak for Mr.
Certainly. I'm
good with that.
Vic, but I can't decision is gravity without a full board present, so.
Yeah.
Mr. Green?
I would concur with Ms. Watts.
Well, and I wouldn't endeavor to speak for them. I just know that the last time I did talk with them about it, I think Ms. Vick was certainly amenable to attending a Monday meeting, and I think Mr. Alford was also. Only
Yeah, I'm
question
good.
is, what time?
Before 5, sounds like.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think 4:59 will cut it.
I've kept the day open in my calendar knowing this might be an option, so I'm good whenever that day you need me.
Whenever.
Yeah, I'm free all day.
Do y'all prefer to try to start it like at 11:30 and do it over the lunch hour?
Yes.
Sure.
Mr. Alford says yes.
Oh, that was
He is
not the
ghosting us.
wizard.
He is ghosting us, yeah, no, he's not, he's listening in. Thank you, Brad.
Yeah.
All right, then let's plan on doing that, how's that? And because to me, it's also important that we have the full board there and give everybody a chance to, now, I mean, we can continue to discuss it here if y'all want to do that, or we can just wait and take it up Monday.
Well, I do have a question if I could.
Absolutely.
Because of something that happened in the conversation in our special call that Dr. Allen had said about, so one of my concerns is I know that as we sort of put off this decision, there's a lot of deferred maintenance and technology pieces that people like Jesse Garin are saying, the blood pressure's kind of ticking up a little bit and wanting to make sure we get this done. So can you clarify for
Yes.
us the idea that if we, if this is something that the board were to decide, we might wait a little longer until May, we would still have some ability to use those funds during the current fiscal year to offset some of those maintenance issues and technology things.
So
Tell us how that works.
let me talk through that for a second, maybe even talk.
And I'm not
answer things-
presupposing board action here,
Sure.
I'm just asking the.
Let's say hypothetically that there was a decision to wait until May for a number of different reasons, right? What that would do is the board would then repair things as they break throughout the course of this current school year. And then if the board were to take action on a bond and the bond would be approved by the voters, there is a legal mechanism by which we could reimburse ourselves for a legally allowable cost out of bond funds. So what you have seen in the recommendation from the committee is, for example, $9 million for technology repairs. I want to remind the board that some of those numbers project 5 years forward. So it's
Right.
both now and moving forward. So we don't need $9 million today, is what I'm getting at. So what that would do is put the district in a just kind of break-fix mode. We're going to kind of maintain status quo. If something breaks, we'll fix it. We'll keep track of those costs. And then if the board were called for election in May, and if that election would be approved by the voters, we can then reimburse ourselves for legally allowable cost after the fact.
I think that's helpful just in the conversation, so thank you.
Yes, sir. And that applies to all those deferred costs and all the rest of that.
Right.
All right, so before we move on to the consent agenda, anything else on this one? Or we'll just take it up Monday? Y'all want to have the meeting start at 11:30?
Yeah.
Good with that?
I think so.
Brad, you good with that?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Are we doing that in here?
I would think we would be.
Yes, sir.
And would that be a streamed meeting? Would that be a streamed meeting?
I have no reason why it wouldn't be.
Okay. It seems like an important thing, so I would want to make sure we have a good,
Yeah.
from a transparency standpoint.
Okay, so we'll get that meeting appropriately noticed under the Open Meetings Act, and we'll take this up at that time. With that said, I'm ready for the consent agenda unless y'all got anything on the other presentation discussion items.
Are we going to circle back to the discussion of real property that's still on here?
No, ma'am. I think we're done with that unless y'all tell me that we need to talk further about it tonight. And if we do, we're going to go into closed session. If not now, then we'll wait till the end of the meeting and go back into closed session. But I had nothing else I needed to talk about, but if we,
A point was made in the special call meeting about the implications of one decision and other decisions, and I want to make sure we have time to address those different things.
Do you want to talk about that at the end of the meeting, go into closed session on it?
I mean, if that's what the board wants to do,
I had a question, and I don't know if it's something I can ask here or in close, it needs to be a closed session question, because it involves real property.
okay, let's do this then, Pam. Let's wait till we get to the end,
Okay.
and we'll take a 5-minute recess. And then if we need to go into closed session, we'll reconvene and go into closed session, and if not, we'll reconvene and adjourn. How's
It's
that?
one question, I don't think it will take very long, but it's something I need answered.
Yes, ma'am. Consent agenda, we have minutes from July regular and special called meeting. We've got our good cause exception that Dr. Allen just talked about, our investment policy, our annual 4-H designation, district appraisers, new courses for the high school, MOU with Tarleton, a resolution on our hazardous traffic routes, our board policy updates for local policies, those are all listed there. Our EFB that Dr. Odejima visited with us about, a defeasance resolution. Any board member wish to remove any item from the consent agenda?
That EFB local is the one that, the alt one that doesn't have the slack in it, correct? Okay, then
Yes,
no, I
sir.
don't.
Correct.
If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved?
Motion by Mr. Tullis,
Second.
second by Mr. Green. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Public hearing on proposed tax rate. Who's going to talk about that?
Mr. Brooks.
Do we need to just open the public hearing, Wesley, or do you want to say something first?
I can just briefly talk about the tax rate. So kind of dovetailing off our discussion on the property values, as our values did decrease, we're not going to see the same property tax rate compression that we had the last few years. So our M&O tax rate will actually be the same as it was last year, 69.69 cents. And our INS rate will be 24 cents for a total tax rate of 93.69 cents. And that 24-cent debt service tax rate does allow for that defeasance that was just approved in the consent agenda for roughly $2 to $3 million, depending on what our tax collections come in at for the year.
I think the only comment that I might add, Mr. Russick's parenthetical, but that one of the things I've been sharing when talking about some of the information that we've been discussing related to Facility Study Committee is I'm not sure everyone recognizes that since 2018, the district has reduced the tax rate for our taxpayers by 38 pennies. And I just think it's worth reminding folks. And clearly, some of that's been through tax compression. I think we have to be careful to give credit where credit's due. But in 2010, our tax rate was 0.28 on the INS side. It is now down to 0.24. And during that same period of time, the board built Park Hill, renovated Chapel Park, renovated River High School, renovated MMS. Y'all know all the work that's been done in that time period. I think the MAC came online during that time. And so I only bring that up to say that it's quick to assume that school boards just want to raise taxes and build stuff. And this district has had a history, long before Chris Allen showed up, of being very, very wise in the management and the use of our tax dollars. And so because of that, we have the great fortune of being able to say we've been able to reduce the tax rate while meeting the needs of our students and making sure that they're thoroughly equipped to be successful. And I'm not sure the board gets enough credit for that. Some of you have been here for some portion of that time. And I think it's a remarkable achievement on the part of this board. It is also remarkable that almost 60% of our tax levy is now coming from non-residents. Some of that's because of homestead exemption numbers, but it's just one of those blessings that I think we have to be very, very wise in our stewardship over time so we continue to stay in the healthy position we're in.
Agreed, sir.
Well, as we go forward, considering whatever we decide to do with the bond, I think it's worth noting that in 2019, we chose to defer some projects that we definitely need in favor of reducing taxes because we realized our community needed tax relief, but that was a can we kicked down the road in favor of relieving some property tax.
Yes, and to your point, Pam, we told the folks back then, because that was a $148 million request, less than what that facility study committee recommended, with the promise that if we got that, we would lower the INS rate, and we did. So, yeah. Public hearing, we will, it's always interesting, we're lawfully have to be in an open meeting to have all the board here, but then how are you supposed to have a public hearing? Is it part of your meeting or not? It's an interesting question. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? We'll call the public hearing to order and invite any member of the public who wishes to come address the board to come do that. We'd like to set a new record and have one person come do that, because we've never had that happen during my time serving on this board.
It's only been a year or two, right?
Nah, nah.
No pressure.
Okay. Not seeing any member of the public wishing to address the board, we'll close the public hearing and we'll move on to adoption of the tax rate for 2025-2026. That's the M&O rate as well as the INS rate. Wesley, I do have one question just because I want to be clear and everybody to be clear. So our M&O rate proposed for this coming year and next year and INS rate, those were the same as they were last time. They haven't changed. And the only reason I bring that up and I say that
Is the language.
Say what?
The language here, yes, go ahead.
No, Colin, you take it
No,
from
I
there,
know where
sir.
you're going, but you go, I know where you're going.
Because, folks, our legislature in their infinite wisdom requires specific language in the motion approving this. And it is, I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of 0.936900, which is effectively an 8.71% increase in the tax rate. Now, you tell me how that's an increase in the tax rate when you just heard the man himself say our tax rates are the exact same that they were last year. But that's your legislature at work. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Ms. Watts. Any further discussion?
I'm glad you pointed that out, because I was going to as well.
It's just, you know, I mean, I'm all for transparency, but that's, you know, if we were trying to swing that the other way, they would tell us we were misleading everybody.
What grade do you think they would get in their math class
I
with
was
that kind
gonna
of
say.
logic?
I don't think they could pass midway math.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right, if not any further discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I think that has to be a record vote, and the record will reflect that that passed unanimously, ma'am. We're going to defer on D, consideration of calling a bond election. We'll have that as an agenda item for our special call meeting on Monday. Consideration of personnel, we have delegated authority to the superintendent, so I know we need no action to approve any hiring. Anything else we need to take up on personnel, like?
Abandonment of contract. Dr. Knudsen, will you talk the board through our abandonment of contract this evening?
Yes, sir. We have a teacher who served in our DAEP program as a general ed and special education teacher who signed a contract for this coming year, and after the what we call drop dead date of June 30th, submitted resignation, understanding that it was beyond the date that we were required to accept resignation, and that we would take him for abandonment if he did not come to work. And first date of report was August 4th, and he has not returned to work. So we are recommending him for your consideration to submit his contract for abandonment.
Were there any emergency circumstances that?
No, we knew he would only be here for another year. He's got some other plans that he's working on, he and his family. But he had committed to a year, which is when he signed his contract, and then felt that circumstances in his personal life had changed and he was not going to be able to fulfill that.
Case in point, though, Ms. Watts, we have had individuals resign who've had emergency situations. We always work with those. This is, if we bring them to you, it's because they're truly abandoned.
Fair enough, thank you.
It seems like a DAP teacher is a pretty important position and probably a hard one to fill on such short notice as well. Is that accurate?
It is. What makes this one especially challenging is that he was special education certified
Right.
and was our only person in that program special education certified, so we're having to work to find alternative arrangements to serve our students in that program.
As y'all will recall, this one requires special motion language, and it's actually a Texas two-step. So with that, I'm going to take the liberty of reading the motion because it's lengthy, relatively speaking. I move that we issue a finding in accordance with Texas Education Code Section 21.210C2 and 19 Texas Administrative Code Section 249.14J, that good cause did not exist for Aaron Brody to abandon his employment contract with Midway ISD and his actions fail to comply with Texas Education Code provision regarding resignations. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Mr. Witt. Any further discussion or questions? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Second part, I move that we authorize the superintendent to send a letter to the Texas Education Agency seeking sanctions against Aaron Brody's educator certification for abandonment of his teaching contract with Midway ISD. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Ms. Watts. Further discussion or questions? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion also carries. We down to superintendent's communications?
Yes, sir. So I think what I want to do tonight is express appreciation for some of the folks who are sitting in the room out in front of us. Y'all, you know that we have 1,300 staff, and they're all getting ready for 8,800 students to show up and start their first day of school on Thursday, the 14th. For some of those kiddos, it'll be their first day in public school, and for some of those kiddos, it'll be their last first day in public school, and everything in between. One of the things that we work very hard at is making sure that our staff, all staff, are prepared, not just in terms of like logistically, but they've had the training and that they've had encouragement, that they've been poured into and feel like they're ready to go. And there's a lot of people who have to work on that, but I would like for us just to take a moment of pause and recognize our teaching and learning department led by Dr. Becky Odojima, for really putting together a series of events that have made sure that our staff is ready and willing to go. And it is a team effort. I think that Becky would tell you, and you can chime in here in a second if you want, but sort of the point on the tip of that spear is Sarah Collins when it comes to BTSS, an event that Mr. Witt attended some of Friday. We appreciate you being able to come to that. But y'all, it's a group effort. Ashley Futris pulls together lots of community support. We were able to feed people that day for no cost to them. We had a no-cost keynote speaker, Dr. John Eckert from Baylor University. And then everybody in the T&L department sitting out there did something to facilitate a session or help get the room ready and this and that and the other. Ken was helping work to facilitate trainings for our school bus drivers. I mean, everybody plays a part. Emily helps us with communications and helps us square away some of the planning for that event. It's a big undertaking. BTSS isn't the only thing we do, but it's a culmination of a lot of what goes on. Ashley made sure that we had an online platform for the required trainings. And again, that was a collaborative effort. A bunch of people with their hands in that pot. But there's a lot of people who work very, very hard. I chuckle when people ask me, hey, what do you do all summer long? It's like, oh my gosh. It's like, it's exhausting. So a lot of people work really, really hard on putting this together. Becky, you want to add anything to that? Because I know I'm leaving people out. And Ashley, be ready.
It was a great sort of end of our training season because all summer long, these folks have been going. Our sessions have been great all summer. Teacher attendance has been fantastic, and like on campus and here, it's been amazing. And I think every department represented here tonight had presenters there. Finance had sessions, HR had sessions, teaching and learning had sessions. There were campus representatives, both administrators and teachers from every campus in the district. So it was a huge event and participation from everybody. So it was really neat to have everybody under one roof and contributors from all campuses and all parts of the district. So it's amazing.
Ashley, anything we missed out?
No, I think you hit everyone. It's a huge collaborative
Everybody.
effort. Yeah, it's a huge collaborative effort that takes months of planning and everybody works together to do their part and it makes the lift easier because everybody's chipping in.
So
That's
I
great.
think I say all that to say this. We're ready to go. And we're excited for kids.
Yeah.
So, you know, well, our first day traditions, we visit every single campus and we go in and we talk to kids and see what's going on with staff. So we're ready to go. A lot of people's hard work to get us from, you know, you have the last kid cross the stage at graduation in, what is that, May? And then immediately we're on the run to get ready for August 14. And so here we are, we're ready and we're excited to start school.
Dr. Allen, you mentioned community partners, and I just wanted to add a shout out because there were a lot of businesses and churches and individuals across the district doing all kinds of things to support and encourage our staff. I was seeing the back to school teacher breakfast that First Woodway hosts.
Yeah.
I know there are many other things going on, but I just want to acknowledge the level of community support that we have outside of the district as well.
Yes, ma'am. And that's a big part of all of it because it not only provides the kind of TLC that we get,
Yes.
but what it communicates to our staff about what it means to be in Midway, right? So like there's a value to that and it helps our staff feel well wrapped around. So yes, ma'am.
All right, we're going to take a 5-minute recess. Y'all are welcome to hang around, but I can tell you, even if we go into closed session, when we come back into open session, we're not going to be doing anything. But if you want to stay, it'll still be a public meeting. Yes, sir.
Agenda on Monday. I'm gonna do, okay, so do we just go ahead and put both of these back on? The same that I had? Okay. Thank you. Perfect. No.
Be there.
We can, I'll put that in the folder
It's my
for
kid's
Monday.
school. You know I'm gonna be in my
We'll see how that goes, yeah. Okay,
So
thank you, that was a lot.
it's here, so I downloaded it
To get
and double
done.
clicked and it opened it and the extension's here. But the regular one that